Hey everyone, and welcome. This is our P1 project update from the B team. We are Aslan M, Ben G, that's me, Ben R, Eric L, Matt M, and Yosef G. We're super excited to show off what we have. I'll go ahead and start by talking about the game we're implementing, which is known as X Game. It follows the rules of Ligan chess, which is pretty similar to regular chess except for 5 key differences. I'll summarize those differences first, and then get into the more technical details of how we're implementing X Game and bringing it to life. So the first difference is the starting positions. In normal chess, the pieces start on the bottom and top of the board in 2 rows. However, in Ligan chess, the pieces are arranged in the corners of the board diagonally, as shown in our first figure. The second difference is the pawn movements. In traditional chess, the pawns can only move forward and capture to their left or right. However, in Ligan chess, the pawns move up left from the player's angle, as shown in our second figure. They capture either to the left or up, as also shown. The third difference is the way pawns are promoted. They promote on the square originally occupied by the opponent's kings, bishops, knights, and rooks, as shown in our third figure. So instead of taking it back to the home row, you actually have to get it into one of those squares on the edge of the board. The fourth difference is there's no castling. In regular chess, under certain circumstances, you can switch the position of the king and a rook on the home row. However, this game variant does not allow for that. The final difference is that there is no en passant. En passant, a move from standard chess, is a method by which pawns can capture other pawns without actually occupying the space. For example, the white pawn here has moved forward 2 squares in stage 2, and then the black pawn on b4 is able to actually capture it by going diagonally but not actually going on its piece. We're describing this just to make it clear that Ligan chess does not support this mechanic, primarily due to the different way in which it handles pawn movements. Having covered the differences between Ligan chess and regular chess, I'll move forward into how we're going to represent the chess game in code. We're going to have 3 classes with 1 abstract class. The first class is the player class, and it plays within the match. The player class contains information like the username, a unique player name, and the color, which the user is playing currently within the match, black and white. The match class maintains several other pieces of information like the state of pieces, which is represented in a board object. The match contains 2 players, as well as the start time, end time, the winner of the match, and points. Finally, we have the board class. We have an array called squares of type piece. Piece is an interface which all the different actual pieces, such as rook and pawn, will implement, but we'll just abstract it to piece for our 2D array, which contains the actual locations of pieces on the board. It also has a method, isValidMove, which checks if a certain move is actually legal or not. Finally, we have an array of previous moves which maintains the state of the game as we move forward. Thus, we can get the history of previous moves and display them to the user if needed. Now that I've talked about X Game and how we're going to set up the class structure, let me talk a little bit about how our team is doing so far. As far as results of Scrum ceremonies, we had our sprint plans, which went well. We finalized timelines and created our GitHub repository. We also made some decisions about development tools, as well as platforms. We had daily scrums meeting twice a week, and then we had a sprint review, which went well. We received good feedback and a little bit of constructive criticism on our UML diagrams and user stories. We also had our sprint retrospective. Some of the things that went well are we did meet our goals and get everything done we wanted to. We did develop some team chemistry as well as an understanding of how our process is going to work. We also set up some communication channels and planned out our schedule for meeting and what times work well for the team. As far as improvement, we could have been a little bit more proactive in setting up our meetings to create the user stories, and we could have delegated tasks a little bit more effectively. However, we'll reflect on these things and do better on our next sprint. A little more information about the technical decisions and project milestones we've met so far. I'll describe how we're managing version control as well as CI/CD. So we're using ZenHub, which is a GitHub plugin that you can get in your browser for our Kanban board. And we've got a couple sets of different pipelines. We've got a user stories pipeline that just contains all the user stories we generate. and these are tagged with the priorities we received from the stakeholders. And then we've got a backlog, in progress, and done, as well as icebox pipelines, where we put epics and tasks that are actually relevant to the project. So we boil down the user stories into epics like environment setup or basic chessboard, and then we create tasks out of those and assign them and put them in our Kanban board. So you can see we've got a pretty big backlog already, as well as the in progress and done pipelines going along smoothly as well. As far as CI/CD goes, we're using GitHub Actions to manage both integration and deployment. So we've got several cool actions for running unit tests and deploying. We're using Java Spark as our web server, and we're going to host it on EC2 through AWS. As far as the front end goes, we're going to be using React.js and hopefully wrapping it in Electron so that you can use it as a website, but also download executables for your system and run it that way too. Anyway, that's about all we have for you in this update. Thanks for watching, and we're so excited to see where this project goes. Have a good one.